Welcome back. Richard Armitage has been an armed copper in Spooks, an assassin hired to kill Robin Hood, and he even had parts in British TV classics such as Cold Feet and The Vicar of Dibley.
But it's his role as Dwarf King Thorin Oakenshield in The Hobbit that has propelled him to a Hollywood A-lister status.
If we succeed, all will share in the wealth of the mountain. You will have enough gold to rebuild Escaroth 10 times over!
All of you! Listen to me! You must listen! Have you forgotten what happened to Dale? Have you forgotten those who died in the firestorm? And for what purpose? The blind ambition of a mountain king, so riven by greed, he could not see beyond his own desire! You have no right. No right to enter that mountain.
I have the only right.
Good face.
It's such a shock when I realise how little I am. Because we were bigger versions of ourselves on set, so when I watch it back and see how...
Well, what are you,
how big we
6'2"?
are. 6'2", yeah.
6'2".
Who'd have thought I'd be playing a dwarf?
How do you get that part?
I don't know. I kind of went and met Peter Jackson to cast for it, thinking, of course he's not going to cast me. I'm not a dwarf. I'm 6'2", and I was thinking, how do I do this? Do I kind of hunch a bit and bend my knees? And obviously, he does it all with CGI, but he wanted us to look like warriors. That's why he cast big guys.
So they also use something called a scale double.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, in both, I mean, there's a sort of smaller version of us, which Mark Aiken was my scale double. He was actually a policeman from Derbyshire.
Oh, really?
And he was actually the right height for Thorin, who is 4'2". He's tall for a dwarf, so yeah. And then
Small for a policeman.
Small for a policeman, yeah. But he did a great job. He kind of had to match my body movements. He had to fight for me in certain scenes.
So do you end up then in that case, because you work very hard on your own performance, and then you've got to hope that the guy that's playing you works as hard on his. It might be from the back. It might be, you know, sort of maybe
I really
not such a
loved
featured
that.
role.
I mean, he was great. Both of my stunt doubles were fantastic. But you know, it is hard to give it up, especially when I'm working so hard to be very specific to sort of even just a walking shot. I'd be with Mark, sort of directing him and trying to get him to match what I did.
So it's exact.
Yeah.
And also, when you take on a movie like this, you also take on the amount of time you're going to spend in makeup and wardrobe, getting into the character.
Yeah, it was quite a long process. You know, we were in makeup for about 2.5 hours every morning, and about 30 minutes to get out of it at the end of the day. So, you know, you have to use that as part of the process. So we used to put all kinds of music on, and, you know, Tammy Lane, who was my prosthetics artist, we got to know each other pretty well because we spent a lot of time in each other's company. But it's,
and does it help when you're sort of getting into the character, having all of that sort of that completely different look?
With this, it was, you know, I was really kind of looking forward to the transformation because it was so far away from myself, you know. Even the description that Tolkien gives you it was clear that it was going to be, you know, nothing like me. So.
Well, when you look at this and the enormity of it, it's all so lavish. But I assume that a massive amount of that is just not there to work with. So when you see this for the first time, you think, oh, that's what they were talking about. That's what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, Lake Town is quite unusual because they built everything. They built the entire city in a soundstage on the back lot, and they flooded it with water, and they floated boats down canals. I mean, that was one of the most extensive sets. The only bit in that scene which isn't real is the snow. That's CGI snow.
Yeah.
And they made me look smaller in that shot by I was on a completely different set in a green box where everyone else was on the main soundstage working. So I had to pop back in and see what they were doing and make sure the eye lines were in place, and then go back into my own little green world.
That's a whole different
was very lonely. Very lonely.
Yeah. So you're 12,000 miles away in New Zealand for 18 months in a green box in a different room to everyone else.
To everyone else, yeah. Yeah.
Also, in the second movie, you get to see how Gandalf and Thorin meet each other prior to the first movie. And what was lovely for you is that you got to spend time then acting with Zoe McKellen, just the two of you together.
Yeah, and that was a new idea, actually. When we came back to do some reshoots, they'd kind of realised they needed a bit of a recap for the politics of what was happening. And it was our first 2 days back, and I got to spend 2 days in the Prancing Pony with Sir Ian McKellen, drinking beer and eating bread and cheese, and yeah, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, that sounds pretty
Well,
incredible.
because also Dominic Benedict Cumberbatch, the voice of Smaug. So you assume that'll all happen afterwards, but you got to work a little bit with him as well.
I did, yeah. And what's really interesting is that they were creating the look of the dragon as Benedict was voicing it, so it was all kind of emerging at the same time. So they were taking his voice and kind of shaping how the character looked. But I never for one moment thought that I would be able to work with him because, you know, he goes into a sound studio to do it. But there was one day when we were able to do the last few moments of the second film when Thorin faces the dragon and speaks his hatred to him, and I got to go into a studio and work with Benedict, who was on the little sheepskin rug on all fours, kind of physicalizing the dragon.
Was he?
Yeah, which you just would never expect.
No.
It was really fascinating to see him creating that voice.
To do that.
On a sheepskin rug?
Yeah, because he was.
He insisted.
It was so physical. He was kind of scraping his knees up, so they brought him in a little. I probably shouldn't have said that. Given something away.
Oh, no, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
You're very critical of yourself, and apparently I read something that you were saying that the first time you watch any of this back, you can barely look at it, and you can only sort of see your faults all the time.
It's true, and the first time you see it is usually during filming when you have to go in and start doing ADR, which is your post-syncing voice production thing. And it's horrific because you have to go in and do that and then go back on set, and you've got this image in your head of your poor performance. But it's interesting how the more you watch it, the more you get used to it, and that's something that the more work I've done, I've just realised you have to embrace it and watch
just
yourself
let it go.
back. Yeah, let it go.
And it's only you that thinks that.
So the Desolation of Smaug is out on the April the 7th,
Yes.
Blu-ray and 3D. But very quickly, because we've got 30 seconds, we just want to mention, because there's another movie you've got, Into the Storm out in the summer, and that's
On my birthday.
And is it on your
It's
birthday?
on my birthday in the UK, yeah.
That looks it's incredible. So this is the effects of a tornado, and that's big time. And once again, I suppose there wasn't much of that there either.
I finished on the Friday on The Hobbit and went to work on Into the Storm on the Monday, and I went from being really, really hot and sweaty as Thorin to being put in a 100-mile-an-hour wind machine and rain and being freezing
my
cold.
goodness me.
It was not much acting involved, actually, just survival.
Well, that is out, yeah, that is out on the 22nd of August in cinemas. Looks amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Right, we'll be back after this news break. Phil Vickery's making macaroni cheese. That
See you in a
sounds
bit.
lovely.